Please join me in a spirit of prayer and meditation. After our spoken prayer and some time of silent meditation, we will sing together Spirit of Life, which you can find in your order of service. Our prayer is by Bruce Southworth. O creative Spirit of life, in which we live and move and have our being, we give thanks for all of nature's bounties. We give thanks for caring friends and compassionate neighbors. We give thanks for the communion of those who seek to serve others. Each of us carries our private griefs and burdens. Sometimes we can share these, and for the open hearts which respond, we are grateful. Sometimes the world bears heavily upon us. We struggle alone, search the depths and long for healing, for renewed hope, for strength, which give their grace and peace. May we be strengthened in efforts to be of service, and may we always be mindful our lives are filled with privilege, success, and joy that are foreclosed to many. May our prayer be that we always see clearly and keep before us the commandment to care. And may we try always to be inclusive and open, not exclusive and narrow. On this day and every day, may we give thanks, but let us also be dissatisfied with the world as it is, for a new world is waiting to be realized. May our spirits and bodies be nourished and nurtured as we give thanks in praise of all that sustains, heals, and holds, all that is holy. Amen. Every month, a group of us gathers in AB Hall downstairs to talk about and plan actions around racial justice. This group was begun by the Social Action Committee and has grown into a group that is open to anyone and everyone interested in coming together around issues of racism in Provincetown. We call ourselves the Racial Justice Project. This group has been very involved in the housing summits in town, particularly working to ensure that people of color were represented at the table, including our seasonal and year-round international workers, as we try to figure out what to do with the disappearance of any affordable rentals in Provincetown. We just sent a letter to Provincetown business owners offering our support to businesses who make racial justice a priority in their business practices. We have ideas about working with the schools, building stronger relationships with Jamaican and other ethnic groups in town, celebrating diversity, and responding to instances of discrimination. We want to be here to listen, to witness, to work for change. The group is growing slowly. We don't have it all figured out just yet. Sometimes it's just a handful of us eating pizza and brainstorming. Sometimes it's a bigger crowd, and we get steam going about our projects and how we can make a difference. Pastor Brenda, Haywood, and I are both part of this group, and we're both excited to see it grow, and thankful for the people who have been part of getting it going. You see, Brenda and I talk all the time about our experiences of race and racism. It's been this way since I got here. We talk about our own and this community's efforts to work toward racial justice. We talk about how we are succeeding and how we are falling short. We talk about what the work is bringing up for us. Brenda and I connected around this as soon as I got here, in part because I had just come from working in Roxbury, where Brenda has also spent time. You should ask her about her experience with the Black Panthers sometime. I came from working with African American youth and a multicultural staff at an agency where the topic of race was always on the table. So we knew we could talk about race and racism together. And although we knew we didn't want to keep the conversation just between us, and we were excited to see a group of people taking on the racial justice classes and are so excited about this racial justice project and the meetings, we also realized that taking our conversations to the next step with others felt a little harder. My colleague, Erica Hewitt, recently wrote about her experience rolling out a big project to Unitarian Universalists. Although she was so passionate about the project, she was also scared. And she noticed how she and her co-creators were feeling and reacting. She said, "Increasingly, we've caught ourselves armoring up, consciously and unconsciously, to preemptively protect ourselves." That's how I feel sometimes going into anti-racism work. This is part of what makes the work hard. It requires such vulnerability. And if I, as a white person, feel these tugs between wanting to be open and vulnerable enough to do the work and lead others through the work, and wanting to armor up so that I don't make mistakes, or watch people make mistakes, or see people get upset, then I can only imagine what this must bring up for people of color engaging in these same discussions. Asking my friends of color to engage in this work with me, knowing that it will also be hard for them, is another hard part of this work. Brenda and I were talking the other day, and we wanted to share our discussions, not just with the Racial Justice Project, but with all of you. But we just didn't know how to do it exactly. And then it came to me, let's just explain why it's hard, and then explain why we still do it. So that is our format this morning, beginning with why this work is hard, and ending, I hope, with an invitation. There's an invitation of sorts in your order of service to join us in this work. This work is hard because it opens up tremendous vulnerabilities for all of us. When you take on such complex issues, race, identity, assumptions and stereotypes, cultural differences, there are many opportunities to say the wrong thing, to worry about what other people are going to say, to have your feelings hurt, to hurt other people's feelings, to apologize, to try again. The work is also hard because it requires a slow building of trust between white people and people of color, even more so with other cultural differences to navigate. So while I am willing and eager to engage on the topic of racism, I have to remember that I don't get to do that right away. There has to be trust there first. Because experiences around race and racism are extremely personal and heartfelt, and there are wounds there. There is deep and complex history involved. There are jobs at risk. So I don't get to just jump into those conversations and go to that raw spot with people I am not in relationship with. And relationship building takes time. This work is hard because I want everyone to be doing it, and not everyone is there with me yet. So I get frustrated. But I have to remember that I was not always in this place either. I started in a much different place. I started in the place that I think a lot of Unitarian Universalists start in, which is not a place of overt racism, but which is a place of wanting the world to be post-racism, wanting the world to be colorblind. And that is not where the world is. That worldview ignores the experience of people of color. And I had to learn that. I had to go to my first anti-racism workshop and say, hey, why are we having time for just white people to gather and time for just people of color to gather? Isn't that racist? And I had to learn that, no, it was important for people of color to be able to meet with people who had been through similar experiences, to explore what work on multiculturalism and anti-racism meant for them in a space that felt safe, where they didn't have to speak on behalf of their entire race. I had to learn that it was not the job of people of color to teach white people about diversity, and that sometimes being in mixed groups made it feel that way. When in this other model, white people could take responsibility for educating other white people. And I had to learn that discussions of racism didn't have to come from a place of shame. They could come from a place of openness, of curiosity, of trust, and of hope. Please join me. We put in lots of extra music this morning, because that is what we love. Please join me in singing hymn number 1017 in your teal hymnal, Building a New Way. Please rise as you are able.
Good morning. I am Pastor Brenda Haywood, Social Justice Community Minister at the Meeting House, and I feel honored to be sharing this service with Reverend Kate. Very nervously, because I really will speak about how racism has affected me. But when Reverend Kate brought this idea to me, I knew I had to. As I began to prepare my thoughts for this moment, I realized how difficult it would be, emotionally and physically, to voice my past and ongoing encounters with racial discrimination. This has completely overwhelmed me to the point of this is my second writing of this. So let's start at the beginning. When I first heard a scripture reading many years ago in my hometown Baptist church, the scripture is Micah 6th chapter, verse 8. What does the Lord require of thee but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with God? These are words of faith. It is my faith. Its message has inspired and empowered my commitment to a spiritual discipline of service, which has enabled me to create a center, an inner peace, a special place in the moments, in those dark moments, when confronted with the sting of racial injustice. But that place of peace is slowly slipping away as the racial barriers are steadily growing. For a brief moment, I invite you to step back with me to a small African American, Native American village just west of Boston, where the ancient African proverb, "It takes a whole village to raise a child," it was honored in every household. This is the village that I was born in. Parents, relatives, neighbor, revered elder, and the community church formed a nurturing, protective community for all children in the village. This act of love created a sanctuary that affirmed no place for hate. That village still exists today, and 2 years ago it was placed on the National Register of Historic Sites. Very proud of that. Within that environment, our awareness of self-worth, dignity, and hope developed. Eventually, with the beginning of school, we ventured out into a far different world that violated our basic human rights, our freedom, and substandard educational practices. These personal racial barriers were evident not only within the school systems, but also in social contacts. Within the school system, this happened in elementary school. I would hear, "Go to the back of the class and don't ask any questions, because you're never going to amount to anything." In creating new friendships with kids, it was, "Why do you want to make friends with a blackie?" Or the N-word was used. Shopping. This still is happening, and it happens here in Provincetown. I would be followed around the store for fear I would steal something, or be told, "Don't pick that up, you can't afford it." Entertainment, movies. We were not allowed to sit on the first floor. We were told that there was a special place up in the balcony. for people of color. The visible and not so visible chains of oppression continues to grip multicultural communities across this land, across Cape Cod, and within this community. We must find a way to be the voice for people afraid to speak up, for fear of leaving this country. We must be advocates to promote social change that affirms the basic human rights for all citizens, all residents, visitors, tourists, whoever comes into our community. We must be the ears, the eyes, and when we hear things, speak up and say, not here. This is a place for no hate. We can do it if we all work together as one. Thank you.
Please join us for another hymn, number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. I mentioned earlier my colleague Erica Hewitt. Although she was talking about a different subject, Erica talked about the shift that she hoped would happen among Unitarian Universalists when engaging with her project. She said that the shift would happen as people moved from criticism to assessment to curiosity to appreciation to trust. This overlays perfectly with the shift that I hope will happen with conversations around race and racism. I should mention here that Erica has been deeply influenced by Brené Brown, and I really want to do another sermon on her work one day soon. The title of this sermon is called No Place for Hate, and the name is taken from another town-wide effort from the past and present. The mission of the No Place for Hate program is to empower Massachusetts municipalities to create local programs that will actively promote inclusion and respect for individual and group difference, while encouraging residents and officials to speak out against hate and intolerance. I bring this up because early on in Provincetown, that program faced criticism. Remember that first framework, criticism, around their name, by people who were not against what they were trying to do, but who took issue with the use of the word hate. There is no hate in Provincetown, they said. We don't want to associate the word hate with our town. What about using the word love instead? Well, I understand where these critics were coming from. They wanted to be living in a world that is post-hate. But that is not where they are living. And I think they needed to open themselves to the stories of people who had experienced real discrimination here in this beloved town in order for them to realize that. So hopefully over the years, those folks have been able to move from a place of criticism to a place of assessment. What is this group? What are they trying to say and do? To curiosity. What risks are people taking by being part of this? What would I lose by listening to them? What would engaging with this work look like and feel like? To appreciation. What can I learn? How does this invite me to be brave or vulnerable too? Who's transformed by this, even if it's not me? How does this strengthen our community? Wow, I connect with this. Finally, to trust. When we engage in this work, we're all trying to do our best. I respond to vulnerability with my own. Connection is already happening. Change is possible. I want to be a part of it. Watching this shift happen for myself and others is one of the things that keeps me engaged in this work. I have seen that transformation happen, and traveling along this path from criticism to trust has changed my life, my ministry, my relationship to my world and communities. It has been very much part of my spiritual journey, one that I am still on. And just one more thing I want to share about why I do this work. It's a quote by Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor and educator. He said, "The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference." As a community of faith, we cannot afford to be indifferent. We are called to stand on the side of love. Please join me in our next hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.
This reading is from Albert Schweitzer. At times, our own light goes out and is rekindled by a spark from another person. Each of us has cause to think with deep gratitude of those who have lit the flame within us. I first heard this next reading, Lessons from the Geese, by Dr. Robert McNeish, about 10 years ago here in this pulpit. It was an inspiring sermon based on faith, commitment, and compassion. Then and now, this reading brings to mind our meeting house members who have contributed their unique gifts, abilities, passion, and commitment to keep the light of social action lit. A commitment of service that has made an impact in our church and in our community. Lessons from the Geese. As each goose flaps its wings, it creates an uplift for the bird following. By flying in a V formation, the whole flock adds 71% more flying range than if each bird flew alone. Lesson. People who share a common direction and a sense of community can get where they are going quicker and easier because they are traveling on the thrust of one another.
Love is the spirit of this congregation.
And service is our promise.
Whenever a goose falls out of formation, it suddenly feels the drag and resistance of trying to fly alone, and quickly gets back into formation to take advantage of the lifting power of the bird in front. Lesson. If we have as much sense as a goose, we will join in formation with those who are headed where we want to go.
This is our great covenant.
When the lead goose gets tired, it rotates back into the formation, and another goose takes the point position. Lesson. It pays to take turns, doing the hard task and sharing leadership with people, as with geese, interdependent with one another.
To dwell together in peace.
The geese in formation honk from behind to encourage those up front to keep up their speed. Lesson. We need to make sure our honking from behind is encouraging and not something less helpful.
To seek the truth with love.
When a goose gets sick or wounded or shot down, two geese drop out of formation and follow their fellow member down to help provide protection. They stay with this member of the flock until he or she is either able to fly again or dies. Then they launch out on their own with another formation or catch up with their own flock. Lesson. If we have as much sense as the geese, we will stand by each other like that.
And to help one another.
Thank you, Social Action Group. This last reading, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but still I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something I can do.